For me, the most terrible thing is to be in a closed space with a person you never want to see in your life again. I found myself in such a situation. I ended up in the same house with my wife, who cheated on me for half a year because of the circumstances. I couldn't leave the house. It was a real test of stress tolerance.
By the time I reached 50, everything in my life was falling into place quite nicely. My daughters were successfully pursuing their education at the university, and along with my wife Jade, we were preparing to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary. Our family enjoyed life in a spacious house in one of the best suburbs, and brand new cars were the cherry on top for our family's status. Throughout my life, my career had been on an upward trajectory. As a regional sales manager at a large national company, I felt right in my element. Jade, who returned to work just 5 years ago, quickly climbed up to a significant position in the advertising department of our friend Greg's company, where she initially started as his assistant. One day, Greg offered us a chance to participate in the growth of his business by investing money in exchange for a share. Jade took on a key role in the sales and business development team, and her achievements were so impressive that, within 2 years, she started earning more than me. Although our busy schedules meant we saw each other less, our marriage remained strong and filled with love. However, our world changed suddenly with the pandemic, a virus that necessitated the isolation of entire countries and the imposition of restrictions akin to martial law turned our lives upside down. Borders were closed, educational institutions and most businesses halted their operations. Only workers in critically important sectors continued to go to work. The police enforced the new rules, effectively turning our homes into prisons. This isolation gave me an unexpected chance to rethink many things and see our usual way of life from a different angle. Working from home became a kind of vacation for me, an opportunity to finally spend time as I had long dreamed. Unlike me, Jade was always concerned about having a financial safety net, and she started working at an intensified pace. We had to adapt, allocating separate weekends so as not to interfere with each other's work. We spiced up these moments with jokes about who would make coffee or lunch this time, which became a kind of rebirth of our happy family life. The first few weeks felt like a honeymoon. We cooked, cleaned, and did other household chores together. We dedicated our weekends to sleeping and cycling, a passion I've had since childhood. Over time, people were allowed to go outside, but only for exercising, and for Jade, this became a great opportunity. Cycling became our daily break from work and a way to distract ourselves from household chores. Over these 2 years, Jade became a true cycling enthusiast, eagerly anticipating each of our next trips. This break from our usual routine has given us the opportunity to try activities we might have missed due to travel and long work hours. As an experiment, I took an online massage course, and Jade became the proud recipient of my evening massage sessions. This, in turn, led to some of the most amazing moments in our intimate life, as if a magical switch had taken us back to the early years of our journey together. We started making love every day, sometimes even twice, and it was simply incredible. Jade, even at 48, remained exceptionally active and attractive. She decided to use this period to learn through an online aromatherapy course, which led to daily deliveries and a wonderful scent in our home. The combination of aromatherapy and massage yielded astonishing results, as thrilling as the first weeks of our unexpected quarantine bliss. However, by the 3rd week, it began to feel increasingly difficult to maintain the initial level of excitement and interest. We started getting irritated with each other, and cabin fever set in. We urgently needed to change something to try and bring that magical spark back into our life. I made considerable efforts to surprise Jade with a magnificent dinner, and it seemed she was impressed by my culinary skills. She expressed gratitude for the meal, but immediately returned to work after finishing, leaving me alone. I realized that restrictions were starting to pressure our business, and while I wasn't devoid of common sense, opportunities to reignite the spark in our marriage were rare. It became apparent to me that Jade was too engrossed in work, constantly glued to her computer or phone screen in attempts to win clients and orders. I decided that I had to distract her from this crazy obsession with work. Having devised a plan, I prepared a relaxing bubble bath, decorated the bathroom with aromatic candles, played soft and sweet jazz, dimming the lights to create the perfect atmosphere for relaxation. Entering her office, I found Jade, caught up in the frantic pace of work. Her look expressed surprise as I approached and extended my hand. "Mark, what are you up to?" she asked, standing up with an involuntary resolve. "Dear, you need to rest," I quietly objected, placing a finger to her lips and guiding her to the bathroom despite her objections. "Mark, please, I have tons of work. Let's do this another time," she continued to insist. However, upon seeing the prepared bath and candles, her face lit up with a smile. "Oh, you sexy beast, this looks amazing. But darling, I really do need to work," she said with a smile. "Dear, I'm sure your clients can wait until tomorrow. Dedicate tonight to yourself. Relax, enjoy the champagne, and let me take care of your magnificent body," I persuaded her, hoping that this evening would help us both distract from the tension and restore our connection. Helping her to undress, I gently took her by the hand, leading her to the jacuzzi. Once she was comfortably reclining in the water, I handed her a glass of champagne. She took a deep breath and whispered in gratitude, "Thank you, dear. You take such good care of me. I feel spoiled." Her words made me laugh. "Don't worry, my love. Perhaps later I'll demand my compensation. Perhaps claim it from your body." Her response was a whisper full of hope. "Oh God, I hope that's a promise." Leaving her to enjoy the relaxing bath, I headed to the lounge. Passing by her office, I heard her phone buzzing. Damn, that could distract her, I thought, and deciding to turn it off, noticed a message from Greg. Driven by curiosity, I opened it and was stunned. "Can't wait to have you back in my bed," the message read. It was not just a joke. Scrolling through the dialogue, I found hundreds of messages, photos, and even videos. Among them were nude photos of Jade. I was shocked. It was no joke. They were indeed having a romantic relationship. Sitting in disbelief, my heart pounded. Then Jade's call came. "Honey, my glass is empty." Bringing her another glass, I tried to hide my agitation, looking at her happy face. She smiled gratefully. Returning to her office, I felt a deep pain. How could she do this after everything we had been through together? 25 years of life together, raising children, overcoming hardships and depressions. The desire to hurt her, to make her feel my humiliation and shame, took over me. Despite the irrationality of my feelings, I began to plot. I took her phone, reviewed all the video recordings and photos, then I gathered all these photos and videos into one file and sent messages to each of the more than 300 contacts in her phone. Among them were friends, relatives, and clients who were now supposed to receive an unexpected notification. Then I connected my phone to the laptop to upload all the materials that proved her infidelity to me. After that, I turned on her computer and discovered an email she had sent to my friend and, coincidentally, her lover. This seemed particularly important. In the course of further investigation, I found many similar proofs of her infidelity. Repeating the actions, I sent them to the entire contact list again. Then I took a flash drive to download everything again, striving to gather as much evidence as possible. Soon I realized that my marriage was over. I just wanted to leave, but because of this damned quarantine, we were locked in together, and leaving the house became impossible. We had turned the room above the garage into a bedroom for our daughter before she left for college, wishing to provide her with a private space. I began moving my things there, deciding it would be my temporary refuge until everything settled down. On the third attempt to move my things, I met Jade. She was wrapped in a towel and looked surprised at the bundle of things in my hands. "What are you up to?" she hissed. "I'm moving to Chanel's room until the quarantine is over," I replied. "Mark." her voice filled with anxiety. "You're scaring me. Why are you acting so strange?" At that moment, our mutual understanding completely collapsed. "Our marriage is over. I will file for divorce as soon as I can," I said, pushing her aside. She screamed after me, begging for an explanation. "Everything will become clear. Just leave me alone," I threw back, advising her to find a lawyer. While I was locking myself in the room, I heard her calling me, but I did not answer. After a few minutes, she apparently realized that I had learned about her secret affair, and she started knocking on the door, crying and screaming. "It was just sex. How can you react like this?" Her words sounded sincerely offended, which was beyond my comprehension. "I hope you enjoyed it and it was worth it," I said, emphasizing that our life together was over. She continued knocking, pleading to talk and explain everything, but I was adamant. "No, Jade, you no longer have the right to speak. You just need to leave and let me be," I replied. She tried to justify her actions, but I remained unyielding. "This is your fault, not mine," I said, dismissing her tears and pleas. "We could have fixed everything if you had just talked to me," she cried, but I knew it was all over between us. I could forgive anything but not infidelity after 25 years of marriage. "This is the end, Jade. Leave me alone." With these words, I left her outside the door, trying to find peace in solitude. Connecting my laptop, I meticulously formed a folder with evidence of my wife's infidelity to send to my lawyer in the morning. The decision to file for divorce was inevitable. I didn't even have to force myself, as our marriage crumbled while I gathered evidence. My phone kept vibrating incessantly, but I chose not to answer anyone. Probably calls from our daughters or parents, but I needed some time to gather my thoughts before speaking to them. The night was sleepless, tossing and turning, falling asleep and waking up. Getting up around 9 a.m., I went inside to take a shower and have breakfast. In the kitchen, Jade was already making coffee. Seeing me, she turned around and smiled wearily. "Good morning, Mark. Want anything?" Her gaze was tired, eyes red from lack of sleep. "No, thanks. I'll make something for myself once you're done. I'm going to take a shower now," I responded, heading to the bathroom. After the shower, gearing up for the day ahead, I returned to the kitchen where Jade immediately handed me her phone. I hesitated, but understood that sooner or later I would have to face it. It was Greg. "Hey, Mark, it's Greg. Just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything that happened. This isn't Jade's fault." "I'm to blame," the voice from the phone said. Not letting him finish, I decisively interrupted. "Forget it, Greg. It's over. We'll sort this out man to man once this virus situation is over." And with those words, I cut off the connection, not giving him a chance to finish. Jade stood before me, sparks of anger flickering in her eyes as she tried to apologize, but I paid her no attention. "You can keep your apologies to yourself," I said sarcastically, and went to make myself some coffee, but I noticed that she had already made some for me. I got myself a new cup and brewed a new coffee, to which she responded with an angry look. "I made that for you," she said, but I deliberately didn't drink her coffee, suspecting she might have tampered with it. "Jade, I don't want to see you anymore, let alone talk. As soon as I finish my coffee, I'm calling my lawyer. I suggest you do the same," I said decisively, but she tried to stop me, reaching out in a plea for help. "Mark, darling, let's just sit down and talk this over. All our problems are just a minor misunderstanding that we can resolve if you give me a chance to explain," she tried to convince me. However, when I asked her about the reasons, she recoiled to the sink as if seeking support. "I don't know, dear. It's complicated. I'm 50 now, and I feel like I'm losing my attractiveness. Over the years, men paid attention to me, but that changed with age. I started feeling invisible," she confessed with difficulty, explaining that her affair with Greg was an attempt to feel desired again. "Jade, that's so superficial. We all age. You should have talked to me, given me a chance to help you," I replied, not hiding my disappointment. In turn, she pointed out my appearance, which, in her opinion, only improved over the years, while she felt aging beside me. "We were supposed to age together, that's the point," she concluded, barely holding back tears, which sounded very selfish to me. I would have loved her always, but she created a problem out of nothing. "I love you, Mark. And that feeling never changed," she whispered through tears. In response, I just shook my head and sighed. "Call your lawyer, Jade. You'll need all the help you can get, and don't count on my kindness," I said, wearily sitting down on the small couch in the living room. At that moment, when chaos engulfed my life, I realized that all I wanted was to get rid of this mess, this terrible marriage. Yet it seemed I was imprisoned with this madness. Attempts to find solace in the mundane, like drinking coffee, were interrupted by another call. This time, it was Melissa, my friend Greg's wife. Her voice trembled with tears. "Hello, Mark. I'm sorry, I don't even know what to say. But thank you for not ignoring this. I needed it, for my own peace of mind." "What are you going to do?" I asked, sensing her suffering through the phone. She sighed, and her voice was filled with utter bewilderment. "I don't know. Everything is so complicated. I want to kill him, get a divorce, strip him of everything he deserves. But it's not that simple. We have children. Our lives are entwined with business. We're up to our necks in debt. If I leave now, I'd have to go back to my parents, and that would be a real hell." "You should do what you think is necessary," I replied, trying to support her. "And you?" she asked. "What will you do?" "I'll call my lawyer as soon as I hang up and start the divorce process," I said, feeling the weight of responsibility on my shoulders. Melissa apologized. "Damn, I'm so sorry, Mark. Isn't there a way to fix all this?" "As far as I understand, it's all over." My determination was beyond doubt. After a long conversation, we parted with heavy hearts. And after speaking with my former friend's wife, I immediately contacted my lawyer. When I told my lawyer Arthur the whole story, he was shocked. He had accompanied me through all the important moments of life, especially in matters related to Greg's finances and business. He asked me about my intentions, and I firmly stated my desire to divorce, offering to provide evidence of infidelity. However, Arthur laughed and said that while infidelity is grounds for divorce, it wouldn't change much in our case. "She'll still get half of everything," he said, but I insisted on filing for infidelity. I wanted everyone to know the truth. "The only advice I can give you is not to make hasty decisions. You're angry now, but decisions made today will affect your entire life," he warned me. Despite his words, I was resolute. When the documents finally arrived, I filled them out, each line echoing my determination to get through this ordeal. After filling out the documents, I took a few minutes to rest, but a phone call interrupted me. I immediately recognized the name on the screen. It was Katie, my eldest daughter. "Dad, what the hell is going on? I just talked to Mom and she's all in tears. I didn't understand anything she said. Are these real letters and messages? Is this true or some kind of stupid joke?" The desperation in her voice was palpable. It was hard for me to hear. "Yes, it's true," I said, struggling to find the right words. "I only found out about it yesterday, along with everyone else." "How can you think about divorce?" she suddenly flared up after my admission. Her words were full of mistrust and pain. "Dad, no, please, no, divorce. It's too much, isn't it? Maybe you could get through this. Mom has always loved you. You know that." I felt anger and disappointment fighting within me. I used to be sure of her love, was ready to bet my life on it, but now, I just can't come to terms with it. The conversation was tough. Each of my words felt like a drop in an already overflowing glass of disappointments. Kathy tried to convince me that divorce wasn't the solution, suggesting we seek help from a psychologist, but I was adamant. "I'm sorry, dear, but I've made my decision. She humiliated me too much." We continued to argue, exchanging the same arguments until Kathy, confused and upset, hung up the phone. My second daughter, Julie, also tried to persuade me, to no avail. She couldn't believe it was true and suspected it might have been some bizarre hacker. But I had already made up my mind. I signed all the documents and sent them back to the lawyer with instructions to split our finances as soon as possible to avoid any scandal. In this process, I faced the reality of our financial situation. We had a joint bank account, and it seemed like all our funds were intertwined. Fortunately, she couldn't take any action without my involvement, so our money was relatively safe. However, the realization that I had to personally visit the bank to open a new account added stress. At that moment, I realized how closely we were connected and how dependent we were on each other. A nightmare. Jade kept disturbing me with little intervals, starting with usual apologies that eventually turned into anger and aggression. Her tears and pleas about how I destroyed her career in Greg's case didn't move me. "It's not about revenge. It's about ending this and moving on," I said, leaving her alone with her tears and walking away with chips in my hand. "I feel like a fool. All this time I loved you," I continued, recalling how I cared for her, unaware of the betrayal. Jade apologized, saying it all started with innocent flirting and begged me to talk. But I was firm. "It's over, Jade. You'll get the papers in a week. Just sign them." Jade tried to downplay her actions, calling it just sex and arguing that it shouldn't be the end of the world. Her words only fueled my outrage. "Do you think I'm crazy? I was blind to what was happening right under my nose," I exclaimed. Jade tried to convince me that they never laughed at me, but 6 months of secret affairs said otherwise. While searching for something to eat in the cabinets, Jade entered the kitchen asking for a talk. "Can we talk a little more, Mark? Please, it's important," she started. This time, she decided to pressure me using our children. She was worried about how scared Kathy and Julie were by my, in her opinion, insane stories. "It's not insanity, Jade. I was just being honest with them," I replied, reminding her of the divorce and the documents provided. The day was spent in continuous phone conversations. Friends and relatives bombarded me with questions, eager to know the details of what had happened. By the evening, I was extremely tired of explaining how hopelessly bad Jade's parents were. They refused to believe in their imperfection, preferring to think that all this was part of my cunning plan to discredit their daughter. At dawn the next day, my sleep was interrupted by a knock on the door. Getting up to see what was the matter, I found Jade, who, without waiting for an invitation, decisively entered the room. She quickly got down to business, saying that last night she, along with Greg and another business partner, were considering a plan to save our business. The essence of the plan was to announce that all the photos and videos that leaked online were the work of a disgruntled former employee who hacked her email in retaliation. "It's up to you, but your support is necessary if we want to convince everyone of the truth of this version," she insisted. I couldn't help laughing, replying that if anyone asks, I will only tell the truth. It's important for people to know who they are dealing with in reality. Jade was clearly shaken by my words, but she didn't give up, begging me to think primarily of Melissa and Greg, whose reputation and business were hanging by a thread. "It's not my fault that Greg ended up in this situation," I retorted, when she, annoyed, stomped her foot, insisting on support. "What we will tell everyone, from children to parents, is your decision, but without my help," I said, closing the topic. Throughout the next week, every visit home was accompanied by scenes where Jade was on the phone with clients, trying to salvage the situation, spreading her version of events among those who received the letter. Finally, one day Melissa called me, desperately pleading for help. She and Greg did everything possible to revive the business and restore its reputation. It seemed Melissa had forgiven him and was now asking me to reconsider my decision. I was tired of the whole situation and wanted it to end as soon as possible, but there was no way out of this vicious circle. The drama seemed to have no end, and our home turned into the epicenter of endless problems. Katie called me several times, getting more and more upset each time. Her mother even convinced her that everything happening was part of a strange conspiracy against her. In the end, Katie managed to persuade me to forgive and forget what happened. All that was required of me was to send her a video clip, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I chose a different path and visited her mother, who was absorbed in her work, in her office, communicating with new clients like never before. I moved my chair closer to her workstation, sat down, and crossed my arms. Jade, you need to open up to Kathy and Julie. Their obsessive theories about hackers are driving me insane, I began. She flinched as if I had suggested something absurd. Why wake sleeping dogs? She countered. But I was adamant. They won't give me a break. Every day, they lecture me over the phone, reproaching me for allegedly making you suffer because of the divorce. They see me as the villain. Jade leaned towards me across the table, resting on her elbows. Her gaze was piercing. Mark, give me a chance to fix everything. Forgive me, and let's start over, she pleaded. The words sounded sincere. We were able to win back all the clients, and it seemed like life was getting back on track. But if you don't tell the girls the truth, I'll have to show them what I have, I warned. Mark, let's leave everything as it is, so nobody loses, she requested. But for me, it was already too late. At this point, they look at me as the villain because I don't believe your words. You'll tell them, or I will. Her pleas not to ruin the relationship with the girls sounded desperate, but I couldn't give in. You can't say anything that would anger them, she assured me, but I had already made my decision. Pulling out a flash drive from my pocket, I waved it in front of her face. Here's a video of you with Greg. I think this will convince them, I said coolly. She turned pale. You can't do this, she breathed. But I was unyielding. Either you tell them, or I will send this to everyone we know. There's such material here that everyone will understand everything at once. She called me the most unflattering words and begged me not to destroy our marriage, assuring me that everything between her and Greg was over. However, I was relentless. Jade, even if I could forgive you, I could never trust you again, I admitted. In the end, she ordered me to leave, and as I headed to the door, I reiterated my conditions. Either you tell them, or I will. A few days later, my daughter called to apologize for her severity. She had talked to her mother, who obviously hadn't revealed the whole truth to her, but promised that we would sort it out ourselves. This didn't solve all our problems, but Kathy started to treat me a bit better. When I contacted the realtor to discuss selling our house, Jade's reaction was explosive. She couldn't come to terms with my decision and went into a frenzy. Lord Mark, how can we sell the house? What will people think? We spent hours convincing everyone that everything was fine between us, and now you want to sell it? Be reasonable. I was struck by her desperation. Listen, Jade, we need somewhere to live. You won't be able to buy out my share, and you can't stay here. I don't want to stay here with bad memories. Selling the house is the best thing we can do to part ways. She took my hand and looked me straight in the eyes. Maybe we should try to stay and fix everything, Mark. I still love you, just like on our wedding day. I don't want a divorce. Can't we settle this? Her words made me think. But how can you talk about love when she's holding my hand so tightly, begging for forgiveness amid tears? I made a mistake. It was foolish and selfish, but it doesn't mean I don't love you. We both made mistakes, Mark. We can get through this. But her betrayal was too painful. You kept lying to me for months. You claim it's all over, but if I hadn't found those messages, you would have continued to lie, right? She tried to comfort me, but I was already filled with doubts. Mark, please, say that this will end. We can be together again, can't we? Her silence only deepened my suspicions. It would be so, wouldn't it? I asked, to which she barely responded. I don't know, maybe. But we got closer after the isolation. You were so loving and caring. Everything changed. Give me a chance and we can forget this ever happened. But I couldn't forgive that easily. Jade, you don't even feel remorse. You just expect me to accept it. Life doesn't work that way. I pulled my hand away. We're selling the house. It will be listed for sale tomorrow. I left, leaving her alone with her grief. The timing for the sale was unfortunate. Realtors couldn't come to inspect the house, and we had to rely on the photos I took for online showings. I spent an entire day creating photos of our home, trying to highlight its best features. After sending them to the agent, we announced the sale the next morning. It attracted the attention of many. Friends, relatives, all were excited and eager to learn the details. Jade was taking call after call, trying to keep the truth behind the scenes. She spun tales about our search for a new place, explaining it by saying the situation with the virus had stabilized and life was starting to return to normal. Freedom seemed closer, but a full return to normal life was still a month away. During this time, my relationship with Jade warmed up. We began to communicate without arguments again. One night at dinner, she unexpectedly asked me, "What can I do to make you change your mind?" Looking at her across the table, I sighed, "I'm not sure anything can help. Trust is lost. But if we were to try to fix something, the first thing you'd have to do is quit your job." She was shocked. "But how can I? I have shares in the company. We own 35% of the business. I adore my job. I love being part of its creation." "Darling, you promised me this 25 years ago on our wedding day. If that promise meant nothing, then why should I believe you now?" I asked. She leaned back in her chair. "Mark, I made a mistake, I admit it. But I promise I can leave my job if it's really necessary. It's simple. If you want to try to fix everything, then I require it. And even then, without promises," I continued. She shook her head. "I don't understand why we can't just move on. Why can't we leave everything as it is? Because you'll be seeing him every day. That's unacceptable. If we want to reconcile, this is the first step," I explained. "No, Mark, that's unfair. I'll do anything, but I can't leave my job," she insisted. "This shows whose side you're on, Jade," I concluded sadly. This short conversation evolved into long debates and disputes, in which even our daughters tried to intervene, attempting to play the role of mediators. Despite their efforts, Jade remained adamant, even in the face of their arguments in my support. It seems that same evening, as I sat on the couch sipping beer, Jade approached me. She sat down next to me and subtly suggested spending the night in the bedroom so I could finally move back to our bed. I refused and made it clear I was not ready for reconciliation, and Jade cried and ran to the bedroom. The next morning, along with the newspaper, I received a notice that Jade had refused to sign the divorce papers, and I had to take extreme measures. Over a few days, I blackmailed Jade with a video of her licking Greg Jr., saying it would be shared with everyone, and only under this pretext did she break down and sign the papers. The divorce, surprisingly, happened quickly and painlessly. All our property was split evenly, 50-50. I temporarily moved to another apartment, and Jade did the same, continuing to work at Greg's company. I've been reflecting on the situation with Jade and concluded that forgiving her and staying together might help resolve the issues between her and Greg. Greg, being Jade's best friend, felt pushed away due to my repeated nitpicking, leading to a significant rift in their relationship. This caused Jade a lot of pain. She often cried at night, talking to our daughters on the phone, who eventually convinced me to forgive her. As soon as the opportunity arose, I promised myself to act. The day of reckoning came when I was waiting for Greg in the parking lot. As soon as he saw me, he froze. "Mark, I'm sorry, I was wrong," he said, trying to apologize for everything that had happened. I took off my jacket and placed it on the hood of my car. "Greg, I promised I'd come for you, and here I am. Let's sort this out like men." But he stepped back, saying he didn't want to fight because it wouldn't solve anything. "You're no longer my friend. You lost that right when you slept with my wife and lied to my face." As I approached, he realized that a fight was inevitable, dropped his briefcase, and began to take off his jacket. As soon as the jacket was off, I pounced on him. We were about the same height, and neither of us was an experienced fighter, but I was full of anger, feeling rage and hurt that demanded an outlet. My blows were heavy, and with each one, I felt the tension leave my body. Greg tried to fight back, throwing punches in return, but my anger gave me an edge. In the end, the police intervened, pulling me away from him. Looking back, I noticed a small crowd, among them Jade, covering her mouth with her hands, in shock at what she had seen. Our eyes met at that moment, as the police officer intervened, separating us from Greg. His face was battered, blood streaming down his cheeks, his nose clearly broken, and his lips split. Despite his appearance being far from ideal, Jade approaching us also didn't look like a model of decorum. "Please step back," the officer politely yet firmly asked us as Jade tried to approach. Her gaze was filled with silent pleading until the officer ended this prolonged moment, pushing us back to the car for questioning. Greg, who did not blame me or make any accusations, simply explained to the police officer that our argument had no serious consequences. The officer's skepticism was evident, but without solid evidence for further action, he decided that the best solution would be to make us shake hands. The moment our hands touched, Greg held mine a little longer than usual, apologizing. "Sorry, buddy, I didn't want it to end up like this. It was a mistake in my judgment." Rejecting his apologies, I stepped back, heading to my car, followed by Jade. "Mark, forgive me. I can't stop blaming myself for what happened. Can we at least try to start over?" Her words were full of despair. "Sorry, Jade, but I can't. I keep blaming myself too, not understanding how I could have missed it. Your affair was happening right before my eyes, and I was blind. We can't be together, as I will always doubt where you are and who you're with." With these words, I left, feeling lighter, stronger, and at the same time, better. Understanding that violence doesn't solve problems was clear, but sometimes it becomes inevitable when all boundaries are erased and life returns to normal. In those days, as the world was gradually recovering from the pandemic, news feeds were filled with stories of overcoming the crisis. Despite millions of unemployed, businesses that could not resume their operations, and overcrowded food banks, reports of returning to normal life brought a note of optimism. Yes, some aspects of life did not withstand the tests, but it was these difficulties that showed what we are capable of when facing unprecedented challenges.
That's the end of the story. Write your opinion in the comments about this story. It will be interesting for us to read it. Also, do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel so as not to miss new, equally interesting and exciting stories. Good luck!